Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So brace up and let's give you some insights that you need to know in the Kogi and Bayelsa election. Tonight, we're not talking about what happened in terms of a lot of civil society organizations are speaking, political parties are talking about what did not happen, how INEC did, what the security operatives did not do. Not tonight, we've talked about that yesterday, but tonight we're focusing on the politics and behind the figures. So the APC swept the two states, Kogi and Bayelsa State, and the reasons for that are being given. Take a listen to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, and he did mention at the villa when they visited President Muhammadu Buhari, he did say Governor Dixon was one of those who helped their party win the election. You know why? Take a listen to him.
Governor Dixon, unfortunately, made our job very easy because he married the wife very badly. Of course, this proverb presupposes that if you marry your wife badly, you will not get another wife. So he didn't marry the state very well. So the state roundly rejected him.
That's a heavy one from a former governor to a sitting governor on the reasons for the loss of the PDP. Don't forget, this is the very first time since 1999 that PDP will lose election in Bayelsa State. Okay. The Bayelsa State governor, Seriake Dixon, today had come out to give reasons. He's talking for the first time after the election. He has described the election as a charade and a carefully orchestrated plan to have the state taken over by the All Progressive Congress and entrenching a one-party system. On a visit of some APC leaders to the former President Goodluck Jonathan's home, the governor said he was free to see whoever he chooses, adding that there was no feud between him and former President Goodluck Jonathan. Take a listen to him.
The President knows that I have always encouraged and advised that should focus on national and international, because that's the face and the leader we have. That's what we worked for, and God raised him for us. I want you all to know that all those blackmail stories are not true, doesn't reflect the true state of affairs. Even as I live here, he calls me, my governor, come. I say, yes, sir. When? And that's the way it will be.
Okay, well, that's his own side. Well, at a visit of the Bayelsa governor-elect David to the president yesterday, Adams Oshiomhole, the national chairman of the APC, said something quite interesting. He calls the new governor-elect the president's baby boy. Why? Listen to him.
We went to present the governor-elect, Governor David Lion, to President Muhammadu Buhari as the president and our father. He has a brand new, as you can see, sparkly white baby boy.
There seems to be another political jargon in Nigeria now. At some point during our election studio, we heard the word Indomie politicians or Indomie political parties. So there are actually political baby boys. So we have one now. So Mr. Lion won in 6 of 8 local government areas in Bayelsa State, defeating his closest rival, Senator Oyediri of the PDP. Mr. Lion's victory marks the first time the PDP would lose a governorship election in the state since the nation's return to democracy in 1999. In Kogi State, however, Yaya Bello, the sitting governor who is re-elected, won polling 406,222 votes to defeat his closest rival, Mr. Musa Wada of the PDP, who put 189,704 votes. Tonight, we shall be dissecting those figures, not in terms of the mathematics of it, but in terms of the politics of it. Let me introduce you to my panel tonight. I have joining me in our Lagos studio a political strategist. Professionally, he is one of Nigeria's political strategists and a lawyer, Mr. Curtis Adigba, here in our Lagos studio. In our Abuja studio, a political analyst, Mr. Jide Ojo. Interestingly, I've had to speak with both of them to come onto the program because of some of their expertise in these areas. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight on the program. Let me begin with you. Where should we begin from? Maybe we should begin from Bayelsa State, because we're hearing the latest news coming from there. There are a lot of talks. First, we heard that there might be sanction on the former President Goodluck Jonathan from the PDP. How true that is, we are yet to find out. On the role he played. In the first place, a lot of people are attributing the fact that Jonathan's body language may have caused the loss of the PDP candidate, because they say they didn't find him at the final campaign. They did say that maybe some of his family members were supporting the APC candidate. They did say also maybe that he didn't give his blessing and some of these things. Also, the governor of Rivers State and his role in all of these things. What do you think played out, politically speaking?
All right, Shengu, thanks for bringing me on the program. You know, there's this thing about in Nigerian politics. It's only talking about the outcome of election, but we don't look at the process or the procedure that leads to election. And that's exactly where most of the problem occurs. How does a candidate emerge from the party? Was it a democratic process, or was it just an imposition by one political heavyweight, like in the case of Bayelsa State, the governor of Bayelsa State? Recall that some of the other candidates felt that the process that produced the PDP candidate was very unfair to them. You know, that the governor just decreed an imposition and then wanted everybody to work for him. There's also the story of the frosty relationship between the former president and the governor. Okay, we don't know how true that is. But again, you must understand that politics is conflictual. People continue to have conflicts over different issues in politics. Now, the difference is how you resolve these conflicts and then bring everybody together into an inclusive basket whereby they can work for the victory of the party at the polls. That didn't happen. Now, if you said the body language of the former president, of course, we need experts in interpretation of body language to understand. The fact that he didn't campaign openly for the PDP candidate could be due to one of two reasons, or one of several reasons. He probably felt that he was an elder statesman, and as a former president, he wasn't going to take a side or campaign publicly for any elective position. It was also due to the fact that he was not consulted on the choice of the party candidate, and probably he was grieving over certain factors that he has not spoken to us about. But then when you say that people around him, maybe his wife, his nephews, his cousins, his political associates, were openly campaigning for the APC candidate, you cannot use that to blame the former president. These are adults. They can make their decisions. In fact, they can choose to join any political party of their choice.
Because, I mean, people are also saying that a few days to the election, the former president visited President Buhari at the villa. The details of that meeting is not. These are some of the political.
But that's not the first time.
Linings that people are drawing into it. Yep. Also, they say after the election, APC leaders visited the former president.
Look, Sheung, you are bound to have characterization of events by political pundits. This is not the first time, or that was not the first time that the former president visited President Buhari, and it probably won't be the last time that he'll be visiting him. So people can interpret that. But if you look at the optics, you cannot blame people who are interpreting it that way, because that's the way we play our politics here. Now, if you talk about APC leaders visiting the president, I find that also very interesting, because you have the same set of people making the argument when it suits them that there's no difference between the APC and the PDP. There is just one party with two branches. I've heard that argument. Right. And when you try to tell people that, look, the core leaders or the topmost leaders of the APC have never been in PDP, right, they argue with you. So it's an interesting argument.
Yeah, let's take a break, Mr. Adiba. We'll also look at how the local government areas that the PDP won in Bayelsa State. Also, we'll look at Kogi State. Mr. Jide Ojo is also waiting. We'll hear from him in a moment. But we'll take a break. And when we return, more to talk about the analysis and the breakdown of the political undercurrent and the politics behind the figures of those two elections. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back into conversation. A political strategist, Curtis Adigba, and a lawyer has been talking to us on this matter. Our second guest on the program is Jide Ojo from our Abuja studio. Let's talk to Jide on this one. Jide, good evening. And look, give us a view on what your thoughts are on the matter in Bayelsa. So you've heard the governor and his own take on what happened and what did not happen. From what you know, what do you think played out that was responsible for APC's win?
A couple of things I will add to what my colleague in Lagos has said. First and foremost, if you look at the pre-election report of some civil society organization, and let me say pointedly, CDD, Center for Democracy and Development, has hinted of a likely upset in Bayelsa. Now, this is a accumulation of what has happened during the 2019 general elections. You recall that out of the 3 senatorial districts in Bayelsa, for the very first time, to the best of my knowledge, one of the three senatorial districts was won by APC, and that's the Bayelsa East senatorial district. Out of the 5 House of Representative positions in Bayelsa State, 2 were actually won by APC in Bayelsa. Out of the 24 State House of Assembly positions, 4 out of those 24 were won by APC. This is unprecedented. It shows that the party is gradually gaining acceptance from Bayelsans. That's one. 2, APC has never made any pretense about its interest in expanding its political empire in the South-South. It has up to now only Edo State as out of the 60s. So in the 2019 election, it fought vehemently to get Akwa Ibom and Rivers, but did not succeed. Now the party went and strategized, knowing full well that November 16 will come. And you also need to understand, it's a legitimate desire for APC to want to expand its political empire. But it's also tied to 2023 race. The party does not want to be seen as a sectional party that is just all about North and Southwest. It wants to broaden its horizon in the Southeast and South-South. But beyond and above that is the factor of national politics. In the last 4 years, APC had been in opposition, PDP had been in opposition in Bayelsa. Even though we know for a fact that from 1999 to date, PDP, Bayelsa has never been ruled by any other party. But in the last 4 years, after losing the center in 2015, in the last 4 years, PDP had been in opposition. And the people of Bayelsa may have thought it through. Can we remain in opposition for another 4 years? Knowing full well that opposition politics in Nigeria is like being in Siberia rather than being in Saudi Arabia. You are not where the honey pot is. And so the conviction, the campaign might have been, please, let's stop being in opposition. Let's belong to the party at the center. So, and that resonated with the people beyond and above whatever intrigues may have happened, in addition to the fallout from the party primaries in September. You cannot rule out the heavyweight, the influence of somebody like Timi Alaibe, who is an old fox, is being fighting tooth and nail, has wide acceptance in Bayelsa, and is very bitter. He has taken the party to court. And for the sake of judiciary, if there had been a decision on Friday, maybe PDP would not have had a party going into Saturday.
Mr. Ojo, let me take you to Kogi. But if you look at it, Southern Ijaw in Bayelsa State, Ogwea and Nembe, yes, those are the areas where APC had clearly had his way, because if you look at it, 58,000 votes in Ogwea, 124,000 votes in Southern Ijaw, and in Nembe 83,000, and you see that those are clear margins there.
Even in Yenagua.
In Yenagua, yes, that's another.
About 5,000.
Yes. So now let me take you to Kogi. in Kogi State, you have a Yaya Bello that is not from the mainstream in terms of where elections were usually won in Kogi State. He has a deputy from where you always have the governor from in Kogi State. But this time around, what do you think was responsible for a Yaya Bello swinging it?
Now, for me, the calculation of APC in Kogi is very interesting calculation. If you look at the Kogi Central, where Yaya Bello is from, there was a relative calm during the election. Unlike in the past, where you have Okene, Adavi, Okehi being flashpoints, there were no violence in Kogi Central. But there was a lot of violence in Kogi East and Kogi West. Why? There was this, I would say, attempt, I don't want to mention party who may have orchestrated that, but the deliberate ploy to scare voters of the polling stations so that majority of the Kogi East people will not come out to vote. You find out that even before the commencement of polls, in Ayingba, which is in Kogi East, in the Kina local government, there was already shooting as early as 7 in the morning. So it is part of the gimmick that the more people are scared away from voting, that 800,000 bulk vote that Wada could have had.
Let me get a view of Mr. Adigba. Just a moment, Mr. Ojo. Mr. Adigba, what did you think played out in Kogi?
Politics. Politics played out in Kogi. But beyond that, you know, he said something. The parties play to their strength in everything in their locations. What used to happen in Kogi was that once you come from the Kogi East, which is the Igala-speaking area that constitutes 45% of the voting electorate, you are home and dry. Why? Because Kogi Central and Kogi West never agree with each other on issues of politics. You know, there is this mutual mistrust about, you know, the political prospect of this group. And so for a very long time, Kogi East had dominated the political game in that place. And this time around, the projection, if you spoke to anyone from Kogi East, it was just like the governorship was just a fruit on a tree that they were just going to pluck. The confidence was pervasive. We are going to reclaim what belonged to us. But for someone like me, who knows that it is not in all election that demographics is king. In other words, you're looking at the number per area and say, look, based on this, because it's based on certain assumptions. One, that everybody from Kogi East will vote for Wada Musa of the PDP, because he's the one from their area. And that everybody, or every voter in Kogi Central will vote for Yaya Bello, and then Kogi West will be the battleground. But that didn't happen for two reasons. One, Yaya Bello had a deputy who was from the east of the state. Of course, he was going to deliver his place. He's from Olamaboro local government. And he did. He delivered. Again, you also find out where he comes from in the central. The policies for me, the policy or the campaign trust for them was, okay, look, let us attack as well as defend. And then contain. So hold my place very well and make sure that I bring everybody out to vote as much as possible. Then attack in the east, where I'm weak, and then contain them in the west. And that's exactly what happened.
I wish we had more time, because a lot of what has happened, Mr. Ojo and Mr. Adigba will agree with me, was beyond, was somewhat what was planned on the table, beyond what people can see.
Look, they talked about violence. I think all political parties were involved in the violence. I don't know who did more, but the reality is that, you see, look, even before the election, you just needed to tune in on the social media. All the parties were boasting about how they were going to fight.
We need to go now, but I must sincerely thank the two pundits on this program tonight, Mr. Jide Ojo and Mr. Curtis Adigba. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks for having
coming
us.
on for your thoughts tonight. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.